Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a really unusual piece of source material that's landed on our desk.
Mm.
This one source, it takes us into some, well, deeply controversial territory, exploring alleged links between political figures, occult practices, and a conspiracy theory that's been around online.
Right.
According to the author of this source, the whole thing, the key that could potentially unravel what they call this rat's nest,
Mm.
starts with Anthony Weiner's legal situation.
And his laptop.
The laptop, yeah. The source claims, what, 650,000 emails were on it?
That's what it says.
Okay. So, yeah, this specific source presents a whole series of claims, observations, and interpretations, derived, according to the author, from looking at emails, specifically referencing WikiLeaks like Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, and also other online stuff like Instagram accounts.
And our mission here, just to be absolutely clear for this deep dive, is strictly to act as guides through what this particular source says.
We're not adding anything external, not verifying, and definitely not taking sides on, the politics or the claims themselves.
No, definitely not.
We are simply laying out the specific claims and interpretations presented in this source material, showing you the picture it paints.
Right, you're going to hear the specific details the source highlights as, well, significant to its narrative.
Think of us as just narrators of this source's story, even though some of it is pretty challenging to process.
Absolutely.
So where does the source claim things start getting, well, for lack of a better word, weird or unusual?
Well, it points first to alleged occult references found within those WikiLeaks emails, specifically some tied to Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
The source mentions one reference, apparently, to making a sacrifice to Moloch.
Moloch.
Yeah, Moloch. And the source itself describes Moloch as, this pagan demonic god,
Yeah.
historically linked with child sacrifice.
Right.
And the source finds that reference just highly unusual, especially in the context of, federal government communications.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that.
Okay. And building on that, the source really focuses in on John Podesta's emails.
Ah, yes.
It claims researchers looking at those emails saw hundreds of references to pizza. Hundreds. But maybe more significantly, the source highlights these invitations Podesta allegedly got to something called spirit cooking.
Spirit cooking.
Yeah.
Hosted by Marina Abramovich.
That's the one. And the source notes that Abramovich is considered by many, according to the source's account, mind you, to be a Satanist or a Luciferian worshiper.
Okay, so these specific points then, the Moloch thing, the pizza emails, the spirit cooking invites, the source frames these as the initial sort of nuggets, the clues that, in the author's view, pointed towards something much deeper.
Exactly. Those are the breadcrumbs, supposedly. Which leads the source to dig into what it describes as the alleged belief system of the group it's talking about.
Right.
And it's really crucial here to repeat what the source itself says.
Yeah.
These are not our beliefs.
Absolutely not.
These are the beliefs attributed by the source's author to the people they allege are involved. And the source says you kind of need to understand these alleged beliefs to get their perspective.
Got it. So the source claims there's this group operating globally that actually self-identifies as Illuminati.
That's the claim. And while they might talk about worshiping the light, the source interprets this not as, divine light, but specifically the light and guidance of a fallen angel, naming Satan or Lucifer.
Okay.
That's the specific light the source alleges they worship.
Right. And here's where the claims get, well, frankly, pretty extraordinary. The source suggests this group traces its origins back to forebiblical times.
Yeah.
Viewing themselves as a pre-Adamite race who originally came from another planet.
Exactly. The source explicitly states the claim that they believe they aren't even human.
Not human.
Nope. But a rival species called Homo capensis, supposedly, with significantly higher intelligence than humans.
Okay. Homo capensis.
But, and this is a key part of the source's story, they allegedly believe their bloodline has been, diluted over time through interbreeding with humans. And because of that, they've supposedly lost their special properties, their, physical powers.
And the source uses Hillary Clinton as an example here to illustrate this idea of a diluted bloodline.
It does. It says, while some might repute her to be a member within that context,
Right.
the source observes she just appears physically human, described as, quote, just a human being if DNA tested, or even a sick old woman with health issues.
Okay.
So the source uses this to argue that current alleged members lack those original powers. They represent this sort of diluted state.
Gotcha.
The source is also very direct about their alleged religious stance. or opposition, maybe.
Maybe.
It posits they do not worship the Judeo-Christian or Islamic God.
Okay. Explicitly not.
Explicitly not. And the author states that any attempts to link this alleged Illuminati group to Judaism or Islam are just misinformation or misdirection, trying to mislead people.
Right. And this connects to how the source claims this group views the story of Noah's Ark.
It does. According to the source, they don't see the Ark story as salvation at all.
No. How then?
They see it as their extermination, an act of genocide by the Judeo-Christian God against their species, this supposed rival non-terrestrial race.
Wow. It's quite a take on it.
It is. So based on the source's interpretation of these alleged beliefs, its author concludes that at their core, this group hate Christians, they hate Jews, and they hate Muslims.
Why? Because they worship God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the source's view, they hate anyone who worships God. The source claims they see Satan as their protector, their enlightener, and God as this entity who tried and failed to wipe them out, which is allegedly why, according to the source, they want innocent Muslims and Christians to suffer. It stems from this hatred of belief in God.
Okay. Heavy stuff. Now let's loop back to Pizzagate because the source talks about that a lot.
Right, extensively.
The source mentions how some researchers at sites were initially puzzled by what it calls a cheeky tone on certain Instagram accounts.
Yeah, cheeky. Yeah. Like, these accounts seem to be, well, the source says fetishizing children. And in the source's interpretation, almost mocking people watching, like saying, you don't see what we're doing, that kind of thing.
Okay. And these researchers were looking at celebrity accounts too.
Some, yeah. Young Hollywood celebrities, the source mentions, and noticing what the source describes as unusual level of interest in pizza iconography.
Pizza again. What kind of iconography?
Like wearing pizza costumes. Or using images of pizza but upside down with an all-seeing eye inside it. Things like that.
Okay. So what's the source's interpretation of that?
It's very specific. The source claims pizza is used as a code language.
Code for what?
For children and for child sacrifice and child abuse. That's the direct claim.
Wow.
According to the source, this code is used to signal to each other that they're in on the joke.
And the joke is?
The joke in this narrative is their alleged belief that they're a different enlightened species protected or rewarded by Satan.
Right. That connects back to the earlier claims.
Exactly. And it links directly to how the source claims this group allegedly views humans as an inferior species that needs to be populated.
Depopulated. You mean reduced in number?
Yes, sorry, depopulated. Reduced.
Okay. And the source presents some pretty controversial claims about how they allegedly try to do that.
Yes, very controversial. It includes things like pushing genetically modified foods and high levels of corn in the diet. Noting corn has natural pesticide molecules, especially via things like high fructose corn syrup.
And the alleged goal of this?
According to the source's author, it's to intentionally create a weaker population, easier to control, presumably. The source also claims this group actually wants war and strife.
As another means of depopulation.
Exactly, to depopulate the planet before resources run out, essentially. And the stated aim, according to the source, is to turn Earth into an Illuminati paradise.
A paradise with fewer humans.
Far fewer humans, yeah. Who would be financially enslaved serving this alleged Illuminati master race? And again, just have to stress, these are the claims presented in this source.
Understood. Now, the source makes some of the most disturbing claims, really hard to hear, about harming and killing children.
Yes, it does.
It alleges that this isn't just like sexual abuse.
Not purely sexual in motivation, no. It alleges it's done because they believe Lucifer and other demonic entities actually assist them when they make a sufficient sacrifice.
Assist them how?
Well, one specific claim in the source is that certain types of torture or abuse are allegedly believed to unlock large amounts of psychic energy.
Huge energy.
That these practitioners believe they can then absorb. That's the claim.
Oh.
And the source adds that child sacrifice is allegedly done to make demonic entities act on their behalf in the physical world.
Like influence events.
Yeah. It gives the example that before doing something big, like passing a major law or starting a war, practitioners allegedly make a sacrifice to ensure victory or success.
Good grief.
And the source's author states, pretty emphatically, that this stuff is apparently real.
They believe it's real.
Yes. And they voice suspicion of significant collusion within the media, maybe over the last 30 years, to just dismiss all this as a joke.
despite the source claiming it's widespread.
Right. Despite the source asserting these practices are rife in Hollywood and it's rife in D.C. and are genuinely happening. It even mentions, briefly, an RT story about alleged occult sadistic stuff at German military sites as another example it uses.
Okay. Now, shifting gears a bit. The source claims there's an alleged upcoming strategy.
Yeah.
By this group.
A future plan.
Yeah. According to the author, they plan to use their contacts in the mainstream media to stage a false flag event, described as one of the biggest of all time.
A false flag involving what?
Well, the nature of it, as described in the source, is pushing public disclosure that aliens exist.
Alien disclosure. Why?
Allegedly, as a massive distraction, specifically aimed at diverting everyone's attention away from these Pizzagate concerns and all the related allegations we've just been discussing.
So, reveal aliens to cover up the other stuff.
That's the source's theory. The author thinks revealing other species would be such big news it would just bury everything else.
And is there a specific location tied to this alleged plan?
Yes, Antarctica.
Antarctica. Okay, why there?
The source mentions weird discoveries down there.
Yeah.
Speculating about maybe old architecture that could completely change our understanding of human history.
Right, and the source questions recent visits there by political figures.
It does. Top U.S. politicos, it says. It kind of dismisses the official reasons, like checking ice melt.
Says that could be done remotely.
Yeah, easily done by staff, the source argues. It claims the real reason for these high-level visits is connected to getting ready to push this discovery narrative later on.
Okay, so the source's interpretation here is maybe they did find something real in Antarctica. But the author believes it's going to be used strategically as a distraction.
A distraction from what is really going on.
Which, according to the source, is this alleged Illuminati group, described as a bizarre, multi-generational cult.
Right.
A cartel of politicos and bankers, supposedly around for at least 400 years, made up of deluded elites who, the source alleges, harm and kill children.
That's the core allegation running through it all.
It is, and the source does bring things towards a kind of conclusion.
Yeah.
It references WikiLeaks again and Julian Assange, crediting them for revealing some of this stuff.
Okay. And it also includes a claim about a counter-movement.
Yeah, that a group has allegedly formed relatively recently.
Who's in it?
Composed of top U.S. government officials and top government officials from other Western governments. People who have supposedly realized the full extent of this stuff, as the source lays it out.
Realize the things the source alleges are true.
That's the implication, yes.
And what's the alleged goal of this countergroup?
The source presents their goal as pushing for immediate public disclosure, advocating for tribunals, like Nuremberg-style tribunals, and bringing these alleged perpetrators to justice. The source claims this group has decided these practices will no longer be a part of Western society.
Okay. Wow. So, listener, we've just navigated through an extraordinary, really complex set of claims, all presented in this single source material.
It's a lot.
Yeah, we've gone from interpreting weird email references and alleged occult stuff through claims of ancient non-human races, code languages involving pizza, alleged depopulation agendas, and even claims about planned alien disclosure, false flags, and a supposed counter-movement inside governments.
It covers a huge amount of ground.
Yeah.
And as we said, throughout this deep dive, we've really stuck to our goal. Just presenting the content and the claims found within this specific source.
Right.
We've aimed to lay out the picture it paints without adding any outside info or trying to verify any of these, frankly, very extreme claims ourselves.
Absolutely. So as you process the breadth and the nature of these claims we've explored from this one source, here's maybe a provocative thought to leave you with. It builds directly on the source's own ideas about hidden power and manipulating information. Given the source's specific, and again, extreme claims about a concealed reality, how do perspectives like these challenge our own understanding of what constitutes reality, and who might be influencing the narratives, the stories we encounter every day?
Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.